The Bucks implode against the Pacers, and they are out of the first round of the NBA playoffs, which naturally brings up the question, where does Giannis go from here? Thibs fumbles the final minutes, and the Knicks have to play Game 6. How do the Warriors and the Wolves avoid the same fate tonight? That's today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Brunson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior writer for the Action Network. He's our Man of 1,000 podcast. It's Matt Moore. And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got the Prince of Petty. It's Hayes. We are wasting no time today because we have to talk about a truly unbelievable finish to the Pacers-Bucks series. Tony East of Locked On Pacers. How in the bleep did Indiana pull this off?
Every player had to be like perfect and take advantage of the opportunities handed them by the Bucks. And the Pacers should have been better than this. Like Halliburton hit his first three in overtime and then just missed so many that like we've seen him make off the offensive rebound before. We've seen him make wiggle into his right before. And like, it's bad that he missed them, but they, in the moment you're thinking, man, you got to get a better look than that. And Gary Trent, meanwhile, couldn't miss. Like I got all the tweets about this is the Supermax guy getting outplayed by the minimum guy. Yeah, he got the last laugh there. But like, it was certainly frustrating. They were not getting anything they wanted until the final minute, and the Bucks were taking advantage until they didn't. Twice. I mean, you can't really like fault them for anything they did except for the turnovers. I mean, the missed free throws, that happens, I guess. Giannis missing the game winner in regulation. Yeah, that happens, whatever. The KPJ shot with 26 seconds to go, you and I have talked about that, felt like a huge mistake in the moment, and the two turnovers, obviously a disaster. And all of that was needed to resolve from the. We're saying the same things over and over, but like that's what the game was. It was those moments.
So many incredible moments. The Pacers down 6, I believe, with less than a minute to go in regulation, down 7 in overtime. Somehow they find a way to win. But I want to talk about the collapse on the other end from the Bucks. Matt, do you remember a collapse that massive in recent playoff memory? I mean, how bad was this?
It's the worst I can remember. Like, I was racking my brain trying to think of the last time I saw a team, because like there are worse collapses over the course of a quarter. Like a really good one goes back to 2003 in the Western Conference Finals. The Mavs led by 13 and got outscored 34-9 in the quarter to lose a Western Conference Finals game. The Warriors actually had a massive collapse versus the Celtics, which I had completely forgotten about, in the 2022 finals. The 2015 Clippers is another good one versus the Rockets, the Josh Smith game where he made 4 of 7 from 3. But like, we're talking a minute that ended your season. Like a minute, you had it. It was done. It was over. All you had to do, like Gary Trent Jr. the ball goes through his legs out of bounds. Like, I have never seen anything like that, Hayes. It was the worst collapse I have ever seen.
It was worse than a minute. They had a 7-point lead in halftime. The Pacers go on an 8-0 run with 35 seconds left on the clock. That's how bad that was. Like that collapse is why people get fired. Doc Rivers should get fired because of that collapse alone, on top of other reasons. But like, that was just, it was ugly. And I couldn't think of a better, more poetic way for the Bucks season to end.
Hayes, like, if that happened to the Bulls, how would you react? Like, I was just catatonic after it, just for Bucks fans. How would you react if that was the Bulls? So, for example, the Bears lost last year to on a Hail Mary to the Washington Commanders, and I broke a desk chair. That's probably how I would react. I'd probably be ordering a new desk chair.
When the Hornets were last in a playoff series, it was against Miami in 2016, and they were just minutes away from clinching and moving on until a fan got into it with Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade turned into a 3-point shooter all of a sudden and sank the Hornets. I went to a local diner and ate an entire giant piece of chocolate cake. That's what I would suggest to Bucks fans. Just not like a regular piece, just like one of those diners where they cut you like half the cake and call it a slice. That would be my suggestion. So we've already had the Giannis's future in Milwaukee discussion this week, and we'll be discussing it all offseason. But Hayes, does the way that this ended and watching Giannis just sort of stare into the middle distance as he watches Indiana celebrate, and we'll get to the post-game activity here in a second as well, but like, does this change for you or further cement what you think the future for Giannis and the Bucks should be, will be? What do you think?
I think it definitely cements it. I like I said, I don't know if they do anything this offseason. They should, but it's coming to an end here. Like you're gonna have to look to move on from Giannis, or like I said, see if you can get lucky with some type of move that nobody's expecting. Take advantage of another team, but I don't see how you do. You don't own your own first round picks until 2031. Like it's a very gloomy future in Milwaukee.
I mean, maybe he sticks around just so he can get revenge on John Halliburton. Maybe that's like maybe he just hangs around just to do that. Look, again, I'll just go back to this. We don't know what Giannis wants. We don't know. When Giannis informs the world, and he will through whatever people he does, then we'll know. Like, oh, we'll get the tweet. Giannis Antetokounmpo has requested a trade, and then we'll start those conversations. But until that happens, I think we owe it to the Bucks franchise and the Bucks fans and Giannis's very admirable loyalty to the Bucks to at least hold out and say, when that decision comes, we'll deal with the reality. Instead of getting so far ahead of ourselves with no reports that he's told them he's gone.
All right, you mentioned John Halliburton, father of Tyrese Halliburton, who after the Pacers won, ran onto the court with a towel with Tyrese Halliburton's face on it, waved it in front of Giannis, and according to Giannis postgame, had a few expletives for Giannis, and there was a kind of an altercation in the middle of the floor. Lots of players and officials and coaches involved in keeping those two separated. Just your thoughts on that whole affair and how everyone handled it, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, John apologized, right? Halliburton's father apologized, and I'm just not going to sit here and judge other people for getting too out of hand in the moment, being too emotional. Was it out of line? Yeah, that's why he apologized. Will it ever happen again? I'll guarantee you probably not. Like, I would guarantee not. It's not going to happen again. He's learned his lesson from it. Happens again, then we can talk about it then. But from now, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I actually thought Giannis handled it extremely well because Giannis wasn't like having to be held back going crazy. He was just like, okay, listen, you're not going to disrespect me. That's not going to happen. Like, he asserted his authority as the absolute dinosaur of a human that he is. And everyone was like, oh, my bad. Sorry. Got a little out of hand there. And now everything's fine. I think we can move on and not spend a lot of time with the discourse on this one, Hayes.
Listen, if that was my son, I probably would have done worse. As somebody who's almost gotten into a fight with Jimmy Butler in my past, if my son was on the court and won a playoff game in that manner, it probably would have been worse. So I definitely understand what John Halliburton did.
All right. Well, let's flip it to the victors. The Indiana Pacers will move on to face the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here's Locked On Cavs host Danny Cunningham with his Pacers threat assessment.
The Cavs played the Pacers, a Central Division opponent, 4 times this year. I am prepared to say that none of those matchups matter. I do not think anything that happened between the Cavs and the Pacers during the regular season matters at all. The Pacers are a much, much better team than what we just saw the Cavs play in the Miami Heat. I expect this to be a much different series than what we just got done watching between Cleveland and Miami, but the Cavs still have a pretty significant talent edge. Miami was a top 10 defense, and the Cavs broke the NBA record for best offensive rating in a single series against a defense that finished the regular season 9th in the NBA. Cavs net rating for the series plus 33.5. I think the Cavs have a significant advantage over Indy in this series.
All right, we'll probably do a deeper dive into this series in the coming days, but just after everything you watched between Indiana and the Bucks and everything you watched between the Cavs and the Heat, Hayes, how much of a problem do you think the Pacers will be for the Cavs? Because Danny Cunningham seems to feel pretty confident about the Cavs' chances.
And he should. I love the Cavs and the manner in which they play on both sides of the ball. He should be very confident. But I do think that this series can go 6 games. And, that's more than I would give a lot of teams credit for against this Cavs team. You cannot take this team lightly. And when the Indiana Pacers do get hot, especially offensively, like they can score right up there with anyone. The question is can they do enough defensively? Because we know that the Cavs can also fill it up. But I think that this series is going to go 6 games, but the Cavs are definitely going to pull this one out.
You're muted, Matt.
Danny just can't help himself from being super. Like we have Rylan Stiles from Locked On Thunder and Danny from Locked On Cavs are just like, I don't see any way that that my team loses, and it's just like, God, guys, how are you not scarred from playoffs past like everyone else? Some interesting stuff in the series in terms of the season series. He's right that you could throw out the last 2 matchups. Pacers won both of those. Pacers won the season series 3-1. The last 2 matchups don't matter. It was in March. We've talked about March before, but also the Cavs that already locked seeding. They didn't matter to those games. Jared Allen had really rough stretches in the games that did matter, though. He had a real problem with being able to stay on the floor. This might wind up being more of an Evan Mobley series than a Jared Allen series. I thought Jared was great in round 1 versus Miami. This might be more of an Evan Mobley series, and they might have to go to more small ball, which means more wing weapons. And once you get into those guys, a few more questions about the Cavs as much as I like them. However, do you know, Hayes, who the player with the best net rating against the Indiana Pacers this season for the Cavs?
Dean Wade.
It was Dean Wade. I'm just gonna keep saying that every single time we do a show. I do think it'll be a good matchup. I haven't done all the film on this yet, but I'll say I would be cautious if I were Danny, because the Pacers are agents of chaos, and their level of physicality and intent could throw Cleveland off its game. I actually kind of think Cleveland had too easy of a first round. I never like it when teams roll in these first rounds, because you have a hard time when you have to adapt to actually playing a serious opponent.
And those first 2 matchups against the Pacers, difficult to evaluate because I don't think they had DeAndre Hunter for either of those 2 matchups. So he shows up as a big X factor in this series as well. All right, coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, we will talk about the other very interesting ending to a game. Knicks Pistons. Did Thibs fumble away an opportunity to get into the second round? And the Wolves and Warriors will try to rectify that and not make that same mistake against their opponents. We'll talk more about that on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Car Gurus. Shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. But with confusing prices and hidden fees, the process can feel overwhelming. That's why I trust Car Gurus. They cut through the noise and help you find the best deals with confidence. Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the U.S. with over 4 million listings. They verify dealers, analyze real prices, and give you the data you need to make smart, pressure-free decisions. Need a deal you can trust? Car Gurus lets you compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. My favorite feature is the price drop alert so that you know exactly when the perfect car hits your budget. Plus, their detailed vehicle info gives you peace of mind before you ever set foot on the lot. It's no wonder that similar web data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com. Cargurus.com. This episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, or outdoor lighting, Wayfair has quality products for every budget. I just upgraded my kitchen with Wayfair, and I'm looking for a new kitchen island as well. So I'm scrolling through Wayfair. The selection is incredible. Their free and fast shipping made it so easy, no hauling heavy items from the store. I love that they have top brands like GE and Moen at great prices. Shopping was seamless, and I found exactly what I needed to fit my space and my style. Wayfair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The New York Knicks fumbled a chance to finish off those pesky Pistons in MSG, all while Jalen Brunson, the NBA's clutch player of the year, watched from the scorer's table. Here's Locked On Knicks with what went down and who's to blame.
Bungled finish for the Knicks here. Thibs a little too loose with the timeouts down the stretch of this game, which then puts the Knicks in this awkward situation where both Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson go down with, I think it was with about 3 minutes left. Thibs, with only one timeout left, having burned one of his final two to sub those two guys out, sits on it for a minute and a half. The Pistons open up a 6-point lead during that time, and that was kind of all she wrote. You watch what the Knicks are doing, and it's just like, there's such a lack of creativity there, especially down the stretch of games. And when they didn't have Brunson in there, it was like nobody knew what to do. If they lose in the first round, that's a step back. And this team did not invest all the money, the draft picks, the everything that they did this past offseason to take a step back. So if Thibs is not able to get them there, then yes, he has to go. Like that's an instantaneous decision. If they get embarrassed by Boston in the next round, I think it's also an instantaneous decision, because I don't think that you built this team to get embarrassed by Boston.
Okay, so funny visual there from Alex Wolf, because you could see his cat's tail in the video, and it kind of looked like it was Alex's tail, so there was some comedy. I saw Matt laughing, so I had to address it. But you see Alex Wolf there, not just the cat tail, but taking a blowtorch to Thibs, his coaching seat. Is it that hot after last night, Hayes, or do the issues run deeper than Thibs' indecision at the scorer's table?
I mean, I think there's an issue with Thibs, and just like, this is what Thibs does. Like, he runs his course with teams. Like, and you can say that about every coach, right? That's not like unique to Thibs, but Thibs has a time frame in which he's good, and then at that point you have to kind of move on, because he either wears your players into the ground, whether injuries or not. But like, even his voice at that point, just, you kind of start tuning Thibs out. So I think that's that they could be in that place, especially if they do take a step back. But I think they have issues with this roster and balance. Like, we knew that their defense was an issue overall, and I could see them bringing back Thibs and trying to add some defense where they need it and running this thing back. But I do think you're starting to run towards the end of that Thibs course, in my opinion.
Thibs is really great for setting a high floor. He's not great for establishing a high ceiling. He doesn't necessarily play for a high ceiling. He just wants to try and win every minute by one. And you need a little bit more of these stretch runs to be able to sustain it. I think when we look at kind of Thibs, is the offense good? Yeah, it's really good. Could it be better? Yeah, probably. Is the defense good? Sometimes defense is really good. Could it be better? Yeah, probably. So, and especially with having added Karl Anthony Towns, I look at this and go, you're probably better off trying to find that guy to take you over the top, to take you to the next level, to move you up. And that'll be an attractive job. It's a contending team in the world's biggest market. I think that's probably time to start figuring out if you really want to try and make this work with Thibs. Thibs has done great work there, but I kind of agree with Hayes. Time might be up on Thibs, because that was atrocious. There is no reason, honestly, for this series for the Knicks to be going to a game 6. Like, with their talent level and their number of wins and who they have available, if you were as good as you should be, this should have been over in 5. And for this to go to 6 now, I think and the other games haven't been so close and coin flippy, I think is not a good reflection on Thibs.
Well, Boston had no problem dismantling Orlando's defense and moving on to face one of these teams, Knicks Pistons. After everything you've seen, Matt, do you give either of these teams, Knicks Pistons, a chance to push Boston to 6, to 7?
4-1. It's going to be a gentleman's sweep for Boston. I have zero confidence. Like, you can kind of squint and be like, oh, but the Wingstop, like, they could do some stuff, and they just can't. They're not going to be able to stop the 3-point attempts. The Knicks backline defense or rotations, this is just a terrible matchup for them. And I think by that, I mean that the Celtics are an actually good team. So anytime that happens, the Knicks are pretty much sunk. They're not going any further. If Detroit makes it, mission accomplished. You can play free. Maybe their physicality bothers Boston for a little bit, but Orlando was basically suplexing them, and they still took care of them in 5. So Boston's making the conference finals in 5 games.
Yeah, neither team is going to give Boston. They're not going to break a sweat against either team. I think that, and not to say it's like a cakewalk or anything, but if it goes 5 games for either team, great. I mean, thank you for giving us an extra game and some entertainment, but I think Boston's going to come through those teams and win those pretty easily. The three-point shooting's too good. The defense is too good. Both these teams have too many problems in both the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks, especially defensively for the Knicks. Boston's going to win this in 4, maybe 5.
All right, we'll talk more about Boston and Orlando here in a moment, but I want to shift to the matchups tonight. The Warriors and the Wolves, they're going to look to do what the Knicks could not do last night, and that's finish off their series. Locked On Warriors talked to Dan Devone of 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, who offered his blunt outlook on the Warriors' penchant for playing small ball.
I think, and I've accused Steve Kerr of this, that there's, I don't know if it was a sense of arrogance, that might be a bit strong, but because they've been able to do it with small ball, be so effective, that I think that they're comfortable saying, we'd like to have a big, but we're okay with Draymond and the Trace Jackson Davises of the world and Quentin Post. This works against Houston, what it is that they're doing. But
it's not going to work against the Clippers. I mean, you got swept to them in the regular season. Zubac kills you.
You can work against the Clippers, but here's the catch. You have to exert so much energy. If you're going to beat Houston, if you're going to get through Minnesota, you have to exert so much energy to put a body on a guy, to rotate, to crash, because you need everybody. The Warriors, at some point, that energy could catch up to them, which is why rest is so key to this basketball team going forward. I think it's crucial they close things out tomorrow night.
Agree or disagree, Matt? Who needs to get the deed done most tonight, the Warriors or the Wolves?
Ew, this is tough. I think I'll say the Wolves, just because, look, do you really want to stretch this thing to a game 6? You're back at home, that's good, but you got Luka coming in, getting better every game after being sick. That means that the Lakers probably figured out something in game 5. That to me is a little bit worrisome. Versus with Houston, this should probably be a 2-2 series anyway, just based off of how close these games have been. And the Rockets are not going to be able to get enough points down the stretch of the remaining games for them to win. The Warriors are going to win this series. The Rockets do not have the guys to beat them late in the series. The Lakers do. So I'll say the Wolves need to get it done tonight, Hayes.
Yeah, Wolves definitely need to get this done. I think you don't want to give Luka and LeBron too much chances to get in even more of a rhythm. You got to finish this one off. I know that there's some thought that, they'll lose this one, go back to Minnesota, close it out there, and that's great, but you don't want to plan for that. You don't want to plan for that. You need to take care of business now in LA, get it done, move on. When it comes to the Rockets and Golden State, I'm not going to count out the Rockets yet, and only because of how close the games have been for them to steal another one. But ultimately, I trust that the Golden State Warriors are going to win that regardless, even if these Rockets catch a little bit of fire here. With the Minnesota Timberwolves, I could say that even if they lose this game, the Timberwolves still have a great chance to win the series. But I just feel a little bit less confident in that, because if Luka gets hot, we already seen what Luka has done to AD before. I'm sorry, not AD, to Anthony Edwards before.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, we've talked a lot about the teams that are moving on, but what about the teams that are left behind? We will send off the teams that have been eliminated so far and ask if they will be back to the playoffs next season. That's coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually drop as tip-off gets closer, and you can save up to 60% with last-minute deals. Plus, with all-in pricing, there are no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. That's a huge relief. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The Boston Celtics closed out their first-round series against the Orlando Magic with a commanding 120-89 victory in Game 5, propelled by Jason Tatum's 35-point performance and a dominant second half. We'll have plenty of time to dig into the Celtics as they prepare to face either the Knicks or the Pistons in the coming days. But that's it. That's all for the Magic, though, who will have to address what Philip Rossman-Wright called a fatal flaw in his latest for Locked On Magic.
Orlando needed to make shots to stay in the series. They needed to compete with the Celtics at the three-point line. In the end, Orlando shot 8 for 38 from 3. In the end, Orlando shot 37.5% from the floor. You're not beating this Boston Celtics defense no matter how good your defense is. You're not beating this Boston Celtics team if you're not making shots. And that's been the story all season. Orlando could get the best looks in the world, and you're never confident they're going to make them.
All right, we now have 3 teams eliminated from the playoffs, and I thought we'd send them off by looking into the future. Will they be back next season, Hayes? The Orlando Magic.
Yeah, not only will the Orlando Magic be back next season, they'll be a top 4 to 5 seed next season. All they got to do is stay healthy, get their pieces back. I still think they still need to add a little bit more offense where they can, but this team is too good. They dealt with some adversity this season, but they're way too good with too high of a ceiling for them not to be back. They'll be back as a top 4 or 5 seed next year.
I don't think you said they need a little more offense, Hayes. Like they don't need like they don't need like a little more offense. Like that's being like I need a little more hair. Like it's not like really the kind of same kind of deal. And honestly, like here's one of the problems is okay. I've been thinking a lot about this. Let's say you had a major playmaker like Trae Young. To do that, you have to take between 5 and 7% usage off of both Franz and Wagner. And now you've moved away from the build that you've put together. Okay, so let's just add shooters. Okay, well, you added KCP, and that was a miss. So there's something fundamental in your offense and the rhythm that you create that has good shooters like KCP missing routinely. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if Anthony Black gets traded somewhere and all of a sudden is like, wow, Anthony Black's a 40% shooter. Like, would not surprise me at all. I don't know how you add a guard that is good enough to raise your offense to the level it needs to be, but not take away from Paolo and Franz. And I just don't know how you do that. Like Wendell Carter Jr. or Gogo, whoever you want at the center spot, cool. And you got Suggs at the 2 guard, okay, cool. I don't know who that point guard's going to be that maintains your defensive identity first off, but then also doesn't take enough usage away from the other guys. I don't know who that is. I can't believe this after so many years where this was a perimeter-dominated league, especially by pick-and-roll point guards. Doug, I don't know who that guy is. We're a little short on guards now. I don't know who that guy is for Orlando. I'm not sure they're going to be back.
It's interesting, right? It feels like so much of the conversation is around double big lineups, and we're getting jumbo-sized with some of these teams in the postseason, and we're finally running short on available guards that can fill that role. You're so right. Let's move on to the Miami Heat. Will they be back next season, Matt?
They'll be back on the beach by April. No, this is done. This is done. We're finished. Finito. There is Andrew Wiggins is like one of your major contracts now. I don't know what you do. Bam disappointed, I thought, in a huge way this season. They built a 5-out offense that was built around trying to accentuate him, and he just didn't live up to what he needed to. There's a lot of defensive numbers that show that Bam actually was sneaky amazing again, and that makes sense. It just never felt like the awesome defense of years past. They've lost too much talent. It's also important to remember from that 2023 run, that was really kind of a fluke run anyway, as an 8th seed. They lost Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin, now Jimmy Butler. Like those guys are all gone. So from that perspective, I just cannot see a path forward. They need to liquidate this team and just suck it up and do a rebuild.
The problem with that is, Matt, is that's very logical. Very, very logical. Pat Riley defies logic. And he is going to look at this and he's going to try to add whatever he can. And they're going to be right back in the play-in. And they may even make it out the play in the game again. And we're going to be sitting here having the same conversation. I unfortunately think that the Orlando Magic, it's probably going to be a year or two before Pat Riley finally understands and realizes it's time to move off some stuff. And by then, it may be too late. And hopefully I'm wrong for that. Like, I like them. I love Eric Spoelstra. Like, Eric Spoelstra is a really good coach, and he deserves to have a team out there that can compete every single night. But Pat Riley is so stubborn when it comes to actually rebuilding. I just, for one, don't expect it to happen. I hope that it does, but I just don't expect it to happen. I think they'll be right back in the play-in next year, and they may very well come out of the play-in again.
I feel like this is you and me, the way we talked about the Lakers before the Luka trade, though. Just like want to remind,
we didn't expect Nico Harrison to be an idiot.
I'm just saying, like, we need to not rule out the possibility of the NBA once again being like, just kidding. So yeah.
I think it's fair to say there's a possibility, but they would have to look significantly different than how they looked at the end of this season. All right, Memphis Grizzlies. Will they be back, Matt?
I think so. Look, this team was really good through January, and they went through a bad stretch that got worse, and then everything fell off. Brandon Clark gets hurt. Then they fire their coach. Then Jalen Wells gets hurt, and everything kind of falls apart. I think that there's some problems in terms of the build. I just keep going back to, if you want to be a Zach Edey team, be a Zach Edey team. But that means you got to move off from some of these other guys. I wrote a big thing in my Substack this week about how you can't have 3 stars. You can't do it. You cannot do it. It's just, that's not where the modern NBA is. And if you want to be like, Desmond Bane's not a star, well, he's paid close enough to 1. So one of Ja, Jaren, and Dez got to go. Now, what's interesting is over on Locked On Grizzlies, Joe Molinax is actually arguing for a total rebuild. Like, he's arguing for trade all 3 of them. And that to me is like a really interesting concept of just being like, this is not going to work. No matter, we can try and make this work, but it's not going to work. I'm actually not unreceptive to those ideas, but I will be just very curious. I think the most likely scenario is that they trade Dez, get some more defenders, some more veterans, and they're back in the playoffs next year. But I don't know how far you're going to go with Jaren and Ja as your 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think so. They got to make a decision here soon, because if I'm not mistaken, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a free agent at the end of next year, right? So I think that gives you your path where you got to try to start deciding something that you want to do. If you want to commit to this still, could commit to it. But I still, they were top 10 offensively and defensively this year. I'll say they'll be back. It may not be pretty, but I'll say they'll be back in the playoffs next year.
All right, finally, the NBA is exploring a new All-Star game format that would feature a U.S. team and an international team. Commissioner Adam Silver confirmed ongoing discussions with the NBA Players Association and NBC, who will be hosting the Winter Olympics during that same time frame. They'll also be hosting the broadcast for that game. It seemed to work for hockey, right? The host of nations thing that they did. Will it work for the NBA, Matt?
No, because the nations thing for hockey was actual teams, because you have enough international players to form teams off of countries. This is one of the things that annoys me, is we're like, it's USA versus the world, as if the world is going to be like, yes, I have such a strong bond with this French guy that I kind of know, versus like the Balkans don't have anything to do with the French guys. The French guys don't know the Spanish players. Like, Europe is a very large continent. And that's before we get into all the other nations. Like, what are we doing? I do not think that this will work. I do not think that there'll be camaraderie. It will maybe wind up like, yes, there's most of the good players on the international. Yeah, you got Giannis and you got Jokic and you got Luka. Like, that's incredible. And Shea, right? But again, I'm going to fight next. Me, the Canadian, will battle next to my brother from Greece. No, stop trying to force this into being a thing, Hayes.
There's only one person. Go ahead.
Just real quick, it's called in the NHL. It's called the Four Nations Face-Off for the hockey fans that listen to the show. I didn't want to murder that. All right, Four Nations Face-Off. Would it work in the NBA, Hayes?
No, there's only one person that can save the All-Star game, and his name is Doug Brunson. See, this is what you need to do. You take the top podcaster from each team, and then the conferences, they face off in the All-Star game against each other. Doug Branson's leading the Eastern Conference to victory.
I've been working on my jump shot. I've been in the gym every single day. I am ready. I wasn't even thinking that was going to be a thing, but I'm ready for that moment.
Why is Doug Branson taking 40-foot pull-up threes? Well, he's been watching LaMelo for 5 years, and that's what he thinks basketball is now. So...
Well, I have to take a shot before the defense can do anything about it, because once the defense gets set, then it's over for me, buddy. All right. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube, where you can leave us your thoughts on a possible U.S. international face-off in the All-Star game in the comments. Thanks to Matt and Hayes for their expertise as always. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Enjoy tonight's action. Check out Locked On NBA Game Night. They're recapping every game every night on this feed. Be kind to each other. We're going to see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.